All right, so let's dive into something kind of profound today.
Okay.
The power of promises.
Interesting.
We're exploring a talk by Elder Ronald A. Rasband.
Okay.
It's called Standing by Our Promises and Covenants.
All right.
Now, even if you're not particularly religious,
Right.
stick with us on this one.
Okay.
This isn't just about, sermons and scriptures.
Mm-hmm.
It's really about the bedrock of trust
Yeah.
and how promises, big or small,
Yeah.
shape every relationship we have.
What I find fascinating is that he doesn't start with,
Right.
lofty theological concepts.
Right.
He goes right to the heart of it.
Yeah.
How much value do you place on keeping your word?
Oh, wow.
It's a simple question.
It is.
It really makes you examine your own integrity
Oh, yeah.
and how that affects the people around you.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
It's like he's saying, whether we're talking about, a
Right.
casual agreement with a friend
Mm-hmm.
or a formal contract in business,
Yeah,
the underlying principle is the same.
absolutely.
Trust is built on promises kept.
Exactly. And that's where the psychology of it
Right.
gets really interesting.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Right.
When we consistently keep our promises,
Mm-hmm.
even small ones,
Yeah.
it strengthens our own self-esteem.
Oh.
We begin to see ourselves as reliable,
Yeah.
someone who follows through,
Right.
and that inner confidence
Yeah.
spills over into our interactions with others,
Mhm.
fosters deeper trust,
Wow.
stronger relationships.
So it's not just about being, good or moral.
Right.
It's actually beneficial to us
Absolutely.
on a personal level to be promise keepers.
Absolutely. And this is where he brings in the example of Jesus Christ.
Okay.
Not just as a religious figure,
Right.
but as the ultimate promise keeper.
Interesting.
What's intriguing is that he frames Christ's entire earthly ministry,
Yeah.
his teachings, his healing, even his atonement,
Correct.
as a fulfillment of promises made long ago.
Okay. So for those who might not be familiar with that concept of the atonement,
Right.
could you unpack that a bit?
Sure. The atonement, in simple terms,
Yeah.
is the idea that Jesus Christ, through his suffering and sacrifice,
Mm-hmm.
bridged the gap between humanity and God.
Okay.
It's like he volunteered to take on the burden of our mistakes and shortcomings,
Oh, wow.
allowing us to be reconciled with a higher power.
Okay.
Now, how you interpret that theologically is up to you,
Right.
but the core idea of self-sacrifice for the benefit of others
Yeah.
is universally powerful.
It is powerful. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that ties back into promises because Christ, in essence, fulfilled his commitment to humanity.
Precisely. And he poses a really thought-provoking question.
Okay.
Can the same be said of each of us?
Wow.
It's like he's challenging us to consider
Yeah.
if we live up to that same level of commitment
Mm-hmm.
in our own spheres of influence.
He even shares that personal anecdote
Yes.
about promising his mother he'd live the word of wisdom.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Which, for our listeners who aren't familiar,
Yeah.
is basically a health code that includes abstaining from alcohol and tobacco.
Yes, and what's striking about that story isn't just the promise itself,
Mm.
but its lasting impact.
Wow.
It shows how commitments made early in life
Right.
can shape our choices and define our character,
Oh, that's interesting.
especially when we're faced with challenging situations later on.
Right.
It's almost like setting an internal compass
Wow. Yeah.
that guides us even when external pressures try to pull us off course.
It makes you wonder what those defining promises were in your own life, right?
Absolutely.
Those moments where you made a commitment, maybe even without realizing its full significance,
Yeah.
that sets you on a particular trajectory.
Absolutely. And that brings us to a deeper exploration of covenants.
Okay.
Now, while the word covenant might sound strictly religious,
Right.
the concept itself
Yeah.
is more universal than you might think.
So how does he define a covenant?
Yeah.
And how is it different from just a regular promise?
He describes a covenant as a two-way promise. Okay.
A sacred agreement where both parties commit to specific actions.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a contract,
Okay.
but with much higher stakes.
Interesting.
And while he uses religious examples like baptism,
Right.
where individuals covenant to follow Christ,
Mm-hmm.
we see this type of reciprocal agreement all the time in secular life, too.
Oh, that's a good point.
Think about marriage vows.
Oh, yeah.
Those are essentially covenants,
Right.
promises made before witnesses,
Yeah.
with the understanding that both partners will uphold their end of the bargain.
That's a great point. It makes the concept much more relatable
Mm-hmm.
and shows that whether we realize it or not, we're constantly engaging in these kinds of two-way promise exchanges.
Exactly. And what he emphasizes
Yeah.
is that these covenants, whether religious or secular,
Right.
come with certain blessings.
Okay.
positive outcomes that result from honoring our commitments.
That makes sense.
He focuses specifically on the sacrament,
Okay.
a Christian ritual.
Where participants renew their baptismal covenants and promise to always remember Christ.
Okay, but what does that actually mean in practical terms?
Yeah.
How do you remember someone in a way that brings tangible benefits?
It's about consciously incorporating the teachings and example
Okay.
of the person you're remembering into your daily life.
Mm-hmm.
So in a religious context, it might mean striving to be more compassionate,
Right.
forgiving or selfless qualities associated with Christ.
Okay.
But even outside of religion,
Yeah.
we can apply this to anyone we admire.
So if you were trying to remember a mentor who embodied resilience,
Exactly.
you might consciously tap into that quality when facing your own challenges.
Precisely. And the beauty of this
Yeah.
is that by actively remembering and striving to live by certain principles,
Right.
we open ourselves up to those positive outcomes, the
Oh.
blessings that he talks about.
So it's not just about passively believing in something or someone.
Right.
It's about actively integrating their example into our actions and choices.
Exactly. And that's where it gets really powerful.
Okay.
Because we start to see how even small, consistent efforts
Yeah.
can create a ripple effect, shaping not just our own character, but the world around us.
This is getting really interesting. So how does he illustrate this idea of promises in action? Does he use any examples from history or scripture?
He does, and he pulls from a diverse range of figures.
Okay.
Ammon, a missionary who demonstrated incredible loyalty.
Wow.
Ruth, who showed unwavering commitment to her family.
Oh,
The Good Samaritan, whose compassion transcended social barriers.
interesting.
And Zoram, who proved his faithfulness through challenging circumstances.
It's like he's saying that true commitment isn't defined by, a specific time period or cultural context.
Right.
It's a universal principle
Exactly.
that shines through in the actions of people from all walks of life.
Exactly. And what's even more compelling
Okay.
is that he doesn't shy away from the fact
Yeah.
that honoring commitments often requires a certain level of grit and resilience. These figures weren't just casually keeping promises.
Right.
They were demonstrating unwavering dedication, even in the face of adversity.
That's a great point. It suggests that true integrity isn't just about doing the easy things. It's about staying true to our commitments, even when things get tough.
And that leads us to an even grander scale,
Okay.
the gathering of Israel.
Now, before we jump into that,
Yeah,
could you explain what the gathering of Israel refers to?
of course.
Especially for listeners who might not be familiar with this concept.
In its simplest form, the gathering of Israel
Mm.
is a concept that spans across generations.
Really?
It refers to a promise made in ancient scriptures
Mhm.
about the eventual unification of God's people.
Okay.
This gathering isn't just about a physical location.
Right.
It's about a spiritual coming together, a uniting of hearts and minds
Yep.
across cultural and geographical divides.
And how does he connect this to the idea of promises?
He ties it back to our pre-earth life,
Okay.
suggesting that we made commitments, covenants even.
To participate in this grand endeavor.
Wow.
He even quotes President Russell M. Nelson,
Okay.
who said that the gathering is the most important thing taking place on Earth today.
So it's like we're all part of a much larger story
Mm-hmm.
that began long before we were born.
Right.
And our choices today, how we handle our commitments, how we treat others,
Yeah.
contribute to the unfolding of that story.
Exactly. And that's what makes it so empowering.
Yeah.
It's not just about blindly following rules or traditions.
Right.
It's about actively participating in something much bigger than ourselves.
Right.
Something that started long ago and will continue long after we're gone.
It's almost like we're in a partnership with a higher power, working together to bring about a greater good.
And that's where his closing invitation and promise come into play.
Okay.
He urges us to consider our promises both to God and to others,
Yeah.
with the utmost integrity, reminding us that our word is our bond.
It's powerful.
He's calling us to a higher standard of commitment.
One where our words carry weight
Yeah.
and our actions align with our pronouncements.
It sounds like he's saying that integrity isn't just a nice to have.
Right.
It's a fundamental building block of a just and trustworthy society.
Exactly. And what's truly inspiring is the promise he attaches to this invitation.
Okay.
He assures us that if we strive with unwearied diligence to honor our commitments, we will be blessed with divine support.
Wow.
He speaks of strength, guidance, and even protection as rewards for living a life of integrity.
Good, but what does he mean by unwearied diligence?
Right.
Does that mean we have to be perfect all the time?
That's a great question, and I think it's something we'll explore further in this deep dive.
Okay.
But for now, let's park it there and pick it up in part 2.
All right, sounds good.
I think it's important to note that his idea of unwearied diligence
Yeah.
isn't about achieving some unrealistic level of perfection.
Right, because that can be really daunting.
Yeah.
If we set the bar impossibly high, it's easy to get discouraged and just give up altogether.
Exactly. Instead, I see unwearied diligence as a mindset.
Okay.
A commitment to constantly striving for improvement even when we stumble. It's about acknowledging that we're all on a journey.
Right.
And each day offers a fresh opportunity to realign our actions with our values.
It's like that saying, progress, not perfection.
Exactly.
It's about focusing on those small steps forward.
Right.
Rather than beating ourselves up over past mistakes.
Precisely. And this is where that promise of divine support becomes so crucial.
Yeah.
He isn't saying we have to do this alone.
Sorry.
He's suggesting that as we strive to live in alignment with our commitments, we tap into a source of strength and guidance that empowers us to become better versions of ourselves.
So it's not just about willpower or self-discipline.
Right.
It's about recognizing that there's a power beyond ourselves that we can draw upon.
Absolutely. And that's where, for those who are religious,
Right.
faith comes into play. It's the belief that even when we feel weak or inadequate,
Yeah.
we can access a source of strength that allows us to overcome challenges and stay true to our commitments.
It's like having a built-in support system.
Right.
Knowing that you're not facing life's trials alone.
Exactly. And that brings us back to the practical implications of all this.
Okay.
How do we take these profound principles
Right.
and make them actionable in our daily lives?
Yeah, that's the question, isn't it?
Well, I think a good starting point is to reflect on our own promise landscape.
Promise landscape.
Yeah.
That's an interesting way to put it.
Think of it as a mental map of all the commitments you've made,
Okay.
both big and small.
All right.
What promises have you made to yourself, to your loved ones, to your community,
Yeah.
even to your work or your personal goals?
Interesting.
Are you honoring those commitments with integrity?
That's a good question.
Are there areas where you might need to make amends or recommit yourself?
It's like taking inventory, not just of our physical possessions,
Right.
but of the commitments that shape our lives.
Exactly. And it's not just about identifying areas where we've fallen short.
Right.
It's also about celebrating the promises we've kept.
Oh, yeah.
Acknowledging the positive impact those actions have had.
Right. It's about recognizing that even small acts of integrity
Yeah.
can create a ripple effect,
Right.
building trust and strengthening relationships.
And remember, it's not just about those grand life-altering promises either.
Right.
It's about those everyday interactions,
Okay.
those seemingly insignificant commitments
Yeah.
that actually make up the fabric of our lives.
Interesting.
Do you show up on time when you say you will?
Oh, yeah.
Do you follow through on your commitments even when it's inconvenient?
Right.
Do your actions consistently reflect your words?
It's about that consistency, that reliability that builds trust over time, right?
Exactly. And as we become more mindful of those everyday promises, we start to see how they contribute to a larger sense of purpose and meaning. Okay.
It's like we're weaving a tapestry of integrity, one thread at a time, that strengthens the fabric of our relationships and communities.
And that connects back to his talk in a powerful way.
It does.
He emphasizes that as we strive to live with integrity,
Right.
we not only receive personal blessings,
Yeah.
but we also contribute to the greater good.
Right. He highlights blessings like increased knowledge, wisdom, and strength.
Okay.
But he also talks about the impact our actions have on others.
Yeah.
When we keep our commitments, we create an environment of trust and stability that allows others to flourish.
It's like that saying, a rising tide lifts all boats.
Exactly.
When we're committed to integrity, it creates a more positive and supportive environment for everyone around us.
Exactly. And remember, this isn't about achieving some unattainable level of perfection.
Right.
It's about progress, about consistently striving to align our actions with our values.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that we're all on a journey.
And each day presents an opportunity to renew our commitment to integrity.
And when we do inevitably stumble,
Right.
it's about having the humility to acknowledge our mistakes,
Yeah.
make amends, and recommit to doing better next time.
Because ultimately the goal isn't just to become better promise keepers.
Right.
It's about becoming more Christ-like.
Oh, wow.
It's about developing the kind of character that allows us to reflect his love and integrity in all our interactions.
That's a powerful thought. It
Hmm.
suggests that this journey of integrity
Mm-hmm.
is ultimately about connecting with something larger than ourselves,
Yes,
something that transcends our individual flaws and limitations.
precisely. And that connection, that sense of purpose,
Yeah.
can be incredibly motivating.
It can.
It gives us a reason to keep striving, to keep growing, even when the going gets tough.
It's like we're tapping into a source of inspiration that fuels our efforts
Right.
and gives us the courage to face our challenges head on.
And you know what I find particularly inspiring is that this isn't a solo mission. We're all in this together. As we each strive to keep our covenants and live with integrity, we create a more trustworthy and supportive environment for everyone around us.
It's like we're collectively raising the bar,
Yeah.
setting a higher standard for how we interact with each other and build relationships.
And as we do that,
Yeah.
we create a ripple effect that extends far beyond our immediate circles.
Wow.
It's like planting seeds of integrity that grow into a forest of trust,
Beautiful.
shaping the landscape of our communities and even the world at large.
That's a beautiful image.
Yeah.
And it brings us back to that question we parked earlier.
Yeah, wait.
What does unwearied diligence look like in practical terms?
Yeah.
How do we take this grand vision and translate it into our daily actions and interactions?
Well, for me, unwearied diligence boils down to 3 key principles:
Okay.
intentionality, resilience, and humility.
Okay, let's unpack those.
Sure.
What do you mean by intentionality?
It's about being mindful of our commitments,
Okay.
not just letting life happen to us, but actively choosing to align our actions with our values.
Right.
It's about pausing before we speak or act and asking ourselves, is this in line with the covenants I've made?
Okay.
Does this reflect the kind of person I'm striving to become?
So it's about making conscious choices,
Yeah.
even in those seemingly insignificant moments
Exactly.
that reinforce our commitment to integrity.
Exactly. And then there's resilience.
Uh,
We're going to make mistakes. We're going to fall short.
right.
But it's about getting back up, dusting ourselves off,
Yeah.
and recommitting to the path. It's about viewing setbacks as opportunities for growth, not as reasons to give up.
It's about having that never give up attitude, right? Knowing that even small steps forward, consistently taken, lead to significant progress over time.
Precisely. And finally, there's humility.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that we don't have all the answers, that we need help along the way.
Right.
It's about being willing to ask for forgiveness when we fall short.
Yep.
And to seek guidance from those who have walked the path before us.
It's about leaning into our support systems,
Absolutely.
whether that's our family's friends or our faith community.
Yeah.
We don't have to do this alone.
Exactly. And when we do stumble, as we inevitably will, it's about extending that same grace and understanding to others.
That's a good point.
We're all on this journey together.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to create a culture of support and encouragement, not judgment and condemnation.
Because ultimately the goal isn't to achieve some unattainable level of perfection,
Right.
but to simply keep moving forward one step at a time, striving to become more like the Savior, who is the ultimate example of covenant keeping.
Beautifully said. And as we do that,
Yeah.
as we strive to live with integrity and purpose, we unlock a level of joy and fulfillment that surpasses anything the world can offer.
Wow.
It's a journey worth taking, and I have a feeling we'll discover some incredible treasures along the way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So as we continue this deep dive into the world of promises and covenants,
Yeah.
let's carry this message of hope and empowerment with us.
Yeah.
Let's make a conscious effort to elevate the way we approach our commitments,
Right.
knowing that even small acts of integrity can have a ripple effect, creating a more trustworthy and fulfilling world for everyone.
And remember, we're not alone in this journey.
Right.
We have each other, we have our faith communities,
Yeah.
and most importantly, we have the unwavering support of a loving Heavenly Father who wants to see us succeed.
So let's go out there and make those promises matter.
Yes.
We'll be back soon with part 3 of this deep dive, where we'll explore even more insights from his talk
Okay.
and discuss how you can apply these principles to create a more meaningful and fulfilling life.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the world of promises.
It really has been a journey.
It has been a journey.
Yeah.
We've explored everything from, the psychology of promise keeping
Right?
to the profound impact of covenants on our lives.
Yeah, and we've even touched on that grand concept of the gathering of Israel.
And how our individual choices play a role in this larger story.
It's been fascinating to see how these seemingly disparate ideas
Right.
are all interconnected,
Yeah.
weaving together a tapestry of meaning and purpose.
Yeah, they really are.
And I think that brings us back to Elder Rasband's closing message,
Okay.
where he urges us to strive with unwearied diligence to
Yeah.
build up our lives. I'm curious, what does that phrase evoke for you?
You know, it's such a powerful image.
It is.
Unwearied diligence.
Yeah.
It suggests a steady, persistent effort, a commitment to keep moving forward, even when faced with challenges or setbacks.
It's not about sprinting to the finish line.
Right.
It's about pacing ourselves for a marathon,
Right.
knowing that consistency is key.
Exactly. And I think it's important to remember that this journey of unwearied diligence isn't meant to be a solitary one.
Oh, that's good.
We're meant to support and encourage each other along the way.
That's where the power of community comes in, right?
It-
Whether it's our families, friends, or faith groups.
Absolutely.
We need those support systems to help us stay on track and lift us up when we stumble.
You know what I find particularly inspiring
Oh.
is that this commitment to unwearied diligence
Yeah.
isn't just about personal gain.
Okay.
It's about contributing to something much larger than ourselves.
It's about creating a ripple effect of positive change
Yes.
that extends outward, impacting our families, communities, and even the world at large.
And I think that's where his message truly resonates.
Yeah.
He's calling us to a higher standard of living,
Okay.
one where integrity isn't just a personal virtue,
Right.
but a foundational principle
Yeah.
for building a more just and compassionate society.
It's like he's saying that by honoring our commitments, even in the smallest of ways,
Yes.
we're contributing to a collective upliftment,
Right.
a world where trust and cooperation
Yeah.
become the norm rather than the exception.
You know what I find particularly encouraging
Okay.
is that he doesn't leave us with,
A list of rigid rules or impossible expectations.
Yeah.
He simply invites us to strive,
Right.
to make a conscious effort to align our actions with our values, knowing that even small steps forward can make a profound difference.
So it's not about achieving perfection overnight.
Right.
It's about embarking on a lifelong journey of growth and self-improvement,
Exactly.
guided by the principles of integrity and commitment.
And I think that's a message that resonates with everyone,
It does.
regardless of their background or beliefs.
Right.
Who wouldn't want to live in a world where promises are kept, trust is valued,
Yeah.
and relationships are built on a foundation of integrity?
Absolutely. And as we wrap up this deep dive,
Okay.
I think it's important to highlight that key takeaway,
Okay.
that each of us has the power to contribute to that vision, one promise at a time.
And remember, you're not alone in this journey.
Right.
You have the support of your loved ones, your community.
Yeah.
And for those who believe a loving Heavenly Father who wants to see you succeed. So as you go about your day,
Okay.
consider the commitments you've made, both big and small.
Yeah.
How can you embody that spirit of unwearied diligence in your interactions with others?
Right.
How can you make those promises matter?
Because ultimately it's in those seemingly ordinary moments of integrity and commitment
Yeah,
that we create extraordinary change.
beautifully said. And on that note, we'll bring this deep dive to a close.
Okay.
We hope you've enjoyed exploring the world of promises and covenants with us.
It's been great.
Until next time, keep diving deep, keep seeking knowledge, and keep striving to become the best version of yourself.